So, folks that know me well know that I'm a big Peanuts fan, which is why I have an entire bookshelf full of Peanuts characters and little gifts that have been given to me along the way, and I love them all. It's been fun to collect them, and I love them. I love the Peanuts characters. I love the Peanuts comic strip, but my favorite of all time is Charlie Brown. I know a lot of people are Snoopy fans, and I'm okay with Snoopy, but it's Charlie Brown, and then second would be Linus. But when I think about Charlie Brown and why it is that I like him so much of all the characters, I think part of it is because Charlie Brown is described as this lovable loser. There's some that have described him as this hopeful optimist or this persistent underachiever, and all of those things seem to fit really well with him. But I suppose that for me, the thing that I like about Charlie Brown the most is that of all the characters, he seems to be the most persistent, even though most of the times, if not all the time, things don't turn out exactly the way he wants them to. I mean, whether or not it's trying to kick the football that continues to be pulled out from under him or persistently going to the mound, even though he loses every single game and is, from what we can tell, a terrible pitcher, he always goes back. He always comes back to the mound, always tries to kick that ball again. He's very persistent, even though he continues to find times when he fails time and time again. Now, I guess some would look at that and say, Charles Schulz, the author of Peanuts, was just cruel to give that character to him. And yet, at the same time, there is something that writers say about Charles Schulz that saw himself as Charlie Brown, actually saw himself as all the characters, but also saw himself as Charlie Brown, this persistent person that went out time and time again and tried, even though it wasn't always the most popular thing to do. Where a lot of people would have given up, he continued on. Well, I was thinking about this, and again, those of you who know me well know that I've been just drawn to the biblical character of Jeremiah. Of all of the prophets, there's something about Jeremiah that I'm drawn to. And I think the reason I'm so drawn to Jeremiah is because in a very hopeless situation, Jeremiah was one that still continued to try to find hope, that tried to find a way to encourage the people to accept what was going on around them, not as a hopeless situation, but as an opportunity to live differently, even in the midst of when things around them were all falling apart. Now, that's a difficult message to preach, and I think Jeremiah had a difficult time preaching it, but he was consistent and he was persistent in preaching that message. So we know that he wrote the prophecies that we see in the book of Jeremiah, but most scholars, if not all scholars, believe that he also was the author of another book of scripture called Lamentations. Now, a lamentation, I got kind of an official definition of a lamentation, but a lamentation is known as a loud cry or expression of sorrow. Now, the book of Lamentations is full of that. It is full of loud cries and expressions of sorrow. In fact, throughout the entire book, that's what we see. The entire book, it's only 5 chapters, but in the midst of the entire book, it's just these cries of despair, these moments of struggle. And it's an acknowledgement that life can be really difficult. Well, right in the middle of this book, in chapter 3, verse 22, we read this: "The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. God's mercy never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." You know, that's an amazing statement to begin with. In fact, that was such a positive statement It was made into a praise song. And I remember when we first started doing praise music at my old church, that was one of those songs that we sang over and over again because it was such a wonderful and powerful song. And yet, most people didn't know that it came right from the middle of Lamentations. It came right from the middle of this book that was devoted to loud cries and expressions of sorrow. And yet, right in the middle was this expression of understanding, was this expression of joy. Now, here's the thing. When Jeremiah was saying this, he wasn't trying to say, oh, just be happy, put on a happy face. He wasn't trying to say, look, compare life. Is it half empty or is it half full? You know, he was really trying to say, even in the midst of when that glass is half empty, there's still joy to be found. Even in the midst of really terrible times when you can't put on a happy face, there's still joy to be found. And the reason for that joy is God's love for us never ceases. In fact, they are new every morning because great is God's faithfulness. That's an important message. It's an important message at all times, but maybe in particular, it's an important message in the midst of pain and struggle. It's in the midst of, once again, having that football pulled out in front of you. Once again, not striking out the batter, but getting the line drive that causes you to flip over and lose your shirt. You know? I mean, that's what happened to Charlie Brown. And our lives, I think, are probably more difficult sometimes. It's not put on a happy face. It's not look at life as the glass half full. It's recognizing that life is sometimes really difficult. But God's goodness, God's mercies are new every morning. And God's love for us never, ever ends.